Madam, I am extremely grateful to a very large number of members who have participated in this discussion. One question which has been raised by a large number of members is on this whole issue of a need of a comprehensive law to reform the electoral process. Well, I have not come across, Madam, in my 4 years of experience in the government, a single piece of legislation which has been brought to tackle different kinds of problems. The problems are too many, which will be wide and comprehensive enough to resolve all issues which are pending. But one by one, slowly but surely, Parliament has been seized of several issues which ail the electoral process in this country. In the last session, we passed a bill in relation to a reform in the Rajya Sabha election that is today listed before the Lok Sabha. In relation to voting by armed forces, we passed a bill. Our standing committee is seized of two very important constitutional amendments, one relating to the anti-defection law and the other relating to the size of the Council of Ministers. Now, these are all issues which our political experience has shown that these are problems which arise, and as and when those problems do arise, we try and resolve them. Political funding is an issue which we are trying to address by virtue of this particular amendment. Several members raised various other problems. Well, we are right when you say that there is a problem and a perception that people with questionable criminal record are entering politics. But then the government cannot overnight bring a legislation to resolve that problem. We have on several occasions discussed this. The Election Commission and the Law Commission have made a suggestion that any person against whom a charge is framed should be immediately debarred from contesting elections. We have discussed that problem at different meetings of political parties, and most political parties did not favor this idea that mere framing of a charge itself would be a disqualification, because charges can be framed for a larger number of offences which may have nothing to do with moral turpitude. They may be relatable to various political agitations, trade union movements. Therefore, to say that let us resolve that issue today itself may not itself be simply possible. A discussion in the political process on all these issues will go on, and perhaps we are trying to one by one take up each of those issues. But there will be some issues which will always be on our agenda and table as far as the electoral system is concerned. Madam, let me just endeavour to answer a question which has been raised by one or two members who have opposed this bill. And the opposition has been on the ground, if I may use their phrase, that you are legitimizing corruption and you are permitting the influence of business houses as far as the political agenda is concerned. Madam, this is not what this bill proposes to do. Even today, contributions are taking place to political parties. Even today, contributions are coming from individuals, contributions are coming from companies, contributions are coming from business houses and business families. It's a hard reality we cannot deny. But today, the contributions which are coming are contributions which are not being recorded. They are entirely outside the tax net, as a result of which the credibility of the political process is affected, because politics is operating on the basis of money which is entirely outside the tax net. Therefore, there is no change that we are bringing about, because as one of the honourable members who spoke in opposition to the bill perhaps was quoting what I had said in the Lok Sabha, and I have no hesitation in repeating it here. Political parties survive on the goodwill and support of the people. But to run political parties and to contest elections, it's a hard reality that they require material resources. And those material resources will come from political workers by way of small donations. They will come from sympathizers of parties. They will also come from such sections, including businesses, wherever these resources are available. That's the situation that exists today itself. But what is happening today is an evil which this bill seeks to curb. Today, the monies are being paid to political parties in cash, black money, as some members have confessed. Monies remain outside the tax net. Political parties in turn spend those monies in cash, and these monies always remain outside the tax net. By giving an incentive in terms of permitting it as a permissible deduction, even if we can start persuading a small section of donors to start paying by check, and once this experiment is successful, this tendency would agree. In the first instance, you are permitting a deduction, but once the money comes into the hands of the political party, and the party in turns now starts spending it by check, whether it's Sprinter or it's a helicopter company where it hires its helicopters for the leaders, if it starts paying by check, this entire money at all subsequent points will be within the tax net. And coming within the tax net, the impact of this will be that there will actually be an addition to the revenue and not any form of exemption, because at all subsequent stages, whoever money rests in whoever's hands, tax will be paid at those stages. And today the situation is, all throughout the transactions, it remains outside the tax net. And therefore, this bill does not in any way legitimize corporate donations. As the Honorable Member Shri Pranab Mukherjee said, corporate donations were always permissible for the last 45 years. The upper cap of 5% of profits also remained. Corporate donations were also taking place. All that was happening is that the political system was living under a hypocrisy, accepting those corporate donations and not recording it. By adding this incentive that this will be permissible taxation expenditure and a deduction for the purposes of tax, we are trying to add legitimacy to a practice which was already in existence. We are seeking to end that hypocrisy which was there in action, and we are trying to at least bring these unaccounted monies into the tax net by allowing a normal and a formal procedure by which these monies can be given as far as political parties are concerned. Madam, a lot has been said about the report of the committee headed by the late Shri Indrajit Gupta. The report did make some very valuable suggestions. But let me correct the impression which was raised. The report had two components to it. One was in relation to the public funding of the election process. If public funding is to take place, then public funding will be on basis of the state resources. 50% of the resources had to come from the state governments and 50% from the central government. Now it was strange, and I quite appreciate the reason that states are already under a great financial strain, that when members of political parties, as members of parliament, sat in the committee, we all recommended that the state governments should pay the money. But whenever state governments, irrespective of the political color of the state government, was approached to give that contribution, they all said we are not in a position to give it. So if that corpus cannot be created today, the difficulty would obviously arise. But we have not closed that option. That option remains. We have said, as the standing committee recommended, electoral voter lists will be given free of cost. As far as other facilities are concerned, depending on the corpus which we are able to raise, we'll see the resources of the state and keep adding to other amenities which can be given free of cost. Electronic media timing will be available free of cost. Today it's only Prasar Bharati which is obliged to give electronic media timing. We have empowered Election Commission to see that other private channels and cable channels also come within that discipline. Therefore, there is an equitable distribution of this timing as far as political parties are concerned. A question was raised by one of the honorable members with regard to parties filing tax returns or not. Now there will be two obligations on political parties after this. The existing law was that if a political party gets its accounts audited and files its return annually with the income tax authorities, and in those returns gives a list of all donors who donate rupees 10,000 or more, then the party would be assessed and the party would be exempted from paying income tax. There was a problem about 5-7 years ago where political parties were not paying, were not filing these returns. But after the directive of the Supreme Court, most major political parties are abiding by that discipline of filing those returns regularly. Now the additional obligation is, this 10,000 has been increased to 20,000, that you will also have to file a statement of account as required under this law with the Election Commission. And if you don't find either of the two, then the facility of tax exemption would be denied to that political party. So there will be an obligation on political parties to have accounts audited, to have a list of donors, to file that list with the Election Commission, and therefore then be entitled to the exemption that the party would be entitled to. The Honorable Member Shri Pranab Mukherjee had referred to the issue of recognized political parties which are only recognized for the purposes of symbols. I'll just draw his attention to the fact that this Act uses two phrases. It uses the word political parties at some places and recognized political parties at some other places. Therefore, in accordance with the recommendation of the Standing Committee, recognized political parties would be entitled to free time on television, etc., in proportionality to their strength. It is for the Election Commission to determine how the proportionality criteria would be available in terms of percentage of votes, etc. But as far as the word political parties is concerned, that refers to the amendment to section 29, which was brought in 1986 or 87 with regard to the registered political parties. So the facility of donations and exemptions in donations is now available to registered political parties because it is under section 29, the chapter which dealt with the registration of political parties. So this is a well thought of amendment which has been approved, and certain suggestions were made by the Standing Committee which we have all accepted. As I said in the opening, Madam, this is a very humble beginning to at least try to legitimize some process of political fundings, but this is neither the beginning nor the end of the electoral reform process. This process would go on, provided practical suggestions with regard to resolve specific problems are there. I do commend to this House that this bill be accepted.